And thank you for joining us on phase 2 of the digital strategy for IBPOC artists and arts organizations. I'm Perry Bulgaris, digital associate with SAPAMO. We acknowledge that we live, work, meet, and travel on the traditional territories of Indigenous people that have cared for this land now called Canada. SAPAMO is located on the land on which the City of Toronto is situated, which we acknowledge as the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississauga of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Huron-Wendat people. SAPAMO is committed to creating meaningful relationships and supporting a diversity of practices, art forms, and cultural expressions. We are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. The Digital Tools Professional Development Session will bring IBPOC artists and arts organizations together to develop their digital tools, capacities, and strategies with a focus on navigating through and preparing post-COVID-19 strategies. Thank you to the Canada Council for the Arts for their support. At this point, I would like to introduce Jessa Agilo, founder of ArtsPond, to kick off the sessions on essential digital tools. Jessa is an integrated arts producer with 3 decades career boosting social, economic, spatial, and digital justice for equity-seeking groups in Canadian arts and culture. Over to you, Jessa, and thank you.
Thanks, Perry. Thanks, Victoria and the SAPAMO team for this invitation. I'm so happy to see you all virtually, and I'm really delighted to try to share some of my digital knowledge, I guess, or digital experience as how I work. And I'll just caveat to say, this is how I work currently, and it doesn't need to be how you work. So you can take all of the suggestions and tools that I'm going to share with you over the next 3 hours with a huge grain of salt, but hopefully they're helpful for you in some way or another, whether you are in a Windows environment or a Mac environment or even Linux or some combination of those 3. You're mixed and matched on desktops and laptops or on mobile devices. Hopefully I have something for all of you. Also hope I have something for you, whether you are as like a sole proprietorship, an entrepreneur, an individual artist, or a small-sized organization. So I'm just going to share my screen with you now, 1 second, so we can launch into the presentation proper. Does everyone see the landing page here? Culture, Pluralism, and the Arts presents Essential Digital Tools with Jessa Agilo. Everyone see that? Okay, excellent. So this is the first of 4 sessions, as I'm sure you saw in the marketing. So this session and the 3rd session are actually meant to be paired together. So I'm going to show you some of the, like a very quick overview of some of the back-end day-to-day administrative tools that I use. And then in the 3rd session, if you're interested in what you saw today and want to know how to actually make it happen in your own environment, the 3rd session as a hands-on workshop will help you set up a lot of what I've got here in my office. So if you like what you see, I hope to see you in the 3rd session. So for those that don't know me, my name is Jessa Agilo and I'm the founder of ArtsPond. My background, I originally started as an artist in music. I dropped out of my doctorate many years ago in the 90s. Eventually went to business school and became a producer, arts manager, working mostly with small creator producers and small arts organizations for the last 15 years. But ArtsPond's really become my full-time gig. We see ourselves as a change maker, trying to boost healthy human ecosystems both on the ground, so looking at real spaces, as well as in the cloud through digital issues. And we have lots of projects on the go. If you want to follow me, it's less active now, but my personal account is Agilo Arts. And you can follow us through our various projects, ArtsPond, I Lost My Gig, Arts United, Digital ASO, and Ground Story. And this PowerPoint will be available to all of you. In fact, I'll give you the link shortly, so you don't need to take notes. We are using, so on the ground and in the cloud, we see ourselves as an equity justice organization looking at social, spatial, economic, and digital issues as essential milestones. If we can address those four things, then I think we can actually start to make some positive progress in terms of the precarity, lack of public appreciation awareness, and lack of space for equity-seeking groups in arts and culture. So I have our equity and access statement here included for you to look at a little bit later. Basically, as an organization, we try to resonate with everything that SAPAMO believes in terms of looking at systems of power and privilege that are very often from white communities and colonial power, and trying to support and diversify and strengthen equity across the sector, and to be accountable to the systems of power that, as a white person, that I have inherited and try to challenge the way I think to be more inclusive, accessible at every point throughout our work, whether it's in digital tools or platforms or conversations, or through traditional grounded relationships. And we're really also devoted to all the equity-seeking groups, including 2S LGBTQ, people with disabilities, youth, women, Indigenous, Black, Brown, etc. So the agenda for today, I'd like to do as a little bit of an icebreaker and a warm up for all of us so we can start thinking about our digital toolkits. I'd like to do a little bit of a walkabout with you together. If you're comfortable by unmuting yourself and putting your hands up and expressing, oops, my presentation keeps wanting to advance. You may see this all the time. I can't, it's my mouse, it's really sensitive. So a little bit of a walkabout where you are at and what you need and what you have around digital. And I'm going to do the same. So I'm going to do a walkabout of what we need and what we have. And then we'll go into the various tools that I currently use here at ArtsPond and what I hope will be helpful to you. We're going to look at two phases of productivity around assets, both financial and content-wise, as well as productivity around people, time, and communications, and all that good stuff. The walkabout. I want to hear a little bit before I go and talk for 3 hours. I thought it was fair and a good opportunity to just chat amongst ourselves. So if you want to unmute yourself, if you're comfortable, or in chat, what are your top, let's see, there it wants to advance. Just my mouse keeps moving because my table's not 100% flat, so it always thinks it wants to advance. What are your top 3 needs and haves for your digital back office or administration? So one example here, the need is, I need 1 terabyte of cloud storage for free. And the have in this example is, I actually only have 100 gigabytes and I'm paying $5 a month for it. So I'm 900 gigabytes short and I'm $5 a month short on my need. Would anyone like to propose what their need and have might be? Take a minute to think about that.
So we do have a comment in the chat, and it says,
Yes.
I need a backup system that does not do redundant archiving like Time Machine.
Yeah, so Time Machine, it was good for its era, right? Like 5 or 10 years ago when it was first, about 7 years ago maybe now, when it first came out, it was awesome. But now most people are not actually backing up to an external hard drive that's located in their house. We're backing up to the cloud, and so Time Machine is useful when you do want an external backup located in your house. But when you want to have cloud backup, really Time Machine isn't the best for that. You can always turn Time Machine off, but yeah, it's a big challenge when you have limited hard drive space. And so the question for those that have just arrived is, even just one, what is your top need and have for digital back office administration?
So we have a follow-up comment, and it's my production files are too big to back up to the cloud.
Yes, well, it depends, right? If you had if you knew you could get a 1 terabyte account, would that be sufficient? It would be sufficient not for all of your projects, but it would probably be sufficient for your current ones, right? To a certain degree. So it is possible to get access to 1 terabyte in the cloud. And there are external devices that you can buy, and we're going to get into it. I have a 60 terabyte drive that backs up to the cloud. So it is possible. Google Drive, memory for email addresses, I forget how much I'm paying, and video editor paying $17 a year. External drives I do have. Yeah, we could talk for hours about Google Drive, and I'm going to summarize my thoughts up on Google in about 4 minutes. There's lots of good things to say about Google, and there's lots of not so good things to say about Google. So yeah, Google Memory is going to be something we're definitely going to talk more about.
I really feel this topic of space, running out of space. This is something that I'm now facing on my laptop. I'm running out of space. And I'm one of those people who don't want to get rid of things. I'm like, what if I need it like 10 years from now? So yeah, spaces.
Yes, data now is the most, like, even like you buy a MacBook Air, for example, and it's got really tiny hard drives, and because they expect you're going to be everywhere in the cloud and using all these purchase services from Apple and Google, etc. No, we don't want to do that. Space is like the #1 information, and the space that it takes up on a drive somewhere is now literally the most expensive thing on the planet.
We have one more comment, and it's access to Microsoft Office without needing Wi-Fi access for Office 365.
Yeah, that's a big one, and it's the same for Google, right? You can go offline with Google. With the Google Cloud and G Suite, it's possible to go offline, and it's possible to go offline also with Microsoft Office. It just means you have a local version stored on your computer until you next time are on Wi-Fi and it syncs. So it is possible to do these things, but sometimes you're in a little bit of trouble if your most current version is on the cloud somewhere and not on your local computer. Then you're going to need Wi-Fi. Okay, great. Well, I'm not surprised that data is kind of the common concern, because that was my common concern also around trying to get ArtsPond up and running. So I'm going to just talk about the pond and pond story or pondery. Briefly, going back to 2014, I'm just throwing a bunch of numbers at you here. In 2014, I had 1 staff person, me, and I had 5 board members. And we had a $0 budget. And at that point, we weren't incorporated. We were it was a grassroots entity. I had a website, but I was paying for everything myself. And so in kind, we had roughly 100K. We had roughly it was more like $50,000 budget that time, but it was all in kind, no actual cash. And we had 100 gigabytes of storage. And I have like 6 terabytes at that time. I had 6 terabytes of local hard drive storage on my own computers. So that was storing everything that I needed. But in terms of collaboration with the community, with my board, 100 gigabytes on Dropbox and on Box and on Google Drive was more than enough for those early days. But those early days, like hoping we all grow over time, and ArtsPond, I'm very blessed and very lucky and very thankful for the growth that we've seen thanks to the Digital Strategy Fund, pretty much. We now have 40 staff, part-time, full-time, 100 collaborators, including board and volunteers and advisors and partners. And we have a $700,000 budget this year, and we need almost 1 terabyte of cloud storage. We currently have 888 gigabytes of files and storage in the cloud. And so, I'm already pretty close to the 1 terabyte limit that most accounts offer you. In 2014, we were only in 1 province and territory and 1 city, really, Toronto. But now we currently have staff and partners and key people that we want to work with in 10 provinces and territories across the country. And so that really meant that we needed to have a digital office, and a very robust one, to manage essentially 140 staff. And even though there's $700,000 budget there, that sounds like a lot, it's actually, there's a 0 budget for for software and back office administration. That 700K is going to basically all the humans, but there's a zero budget for any day-to-day admin and cloud storage and all that stuff. So I still need to have a back office with almost no cost. So hardware is a very important consideration in all of this. So back in 2016, I had a late 2013 MacBook Pro. I had my own Windows PC, and for any staff and volunteers, I bought this really cheap Think Center that Lenovo makes. And if you want to look at all the specs in the PDF when you download this, you can. It is, but basically I had that late 2013. It was very expensive laptop. And I find that, like, as much as I love MacBook Pros for the experience, the OS does not last. Like, the OS no longer works. I can't upgrade to the most, sorry, it keeps advancing. The Mac here, the OS, I can't use the most recent versions of the software, and all the software that I want to use aren't available on my MacBook anymore. So it just keeps aging out. So I'm just going to have to, it's literally, I have to re-level my table. Didn't realize it was doing this with this new mouse until this morning. Not time to fix it. So apologies. Always got to be something technical, right? Something technical bad that happens in these things. But I self-built my own computer back in 2015, and it's still awesome for today. Like, it has a 2.8 gigahertz a processor and 32 gigabytes of RAM, and I have 8 terabytes of hard drives. I probably spent close to $3,500 on it at that time, but that computer is going to last me 25 years. It's still going to be good 10 years from now. There's hardly a glitch in it at all. And as a Windows software computer, as opposed to a Mac, there's so much better support for OS in progressing from one OS to the next. So it was a lot of money up front, but I saved for 5 years and made that good computer. And I learned about how to build it myself to save on cost. And really, it's a lifesaver now, because it's in terms of production and live streaming and multitasking, it's an awesome computer. At that time, go back one here, for cloud, I was using these external hard drive by WD My Cloud, and they're 1 or 2 terabytes each, and they back up into the cloud. And there was good things about it. They were affordable, but the networking speed, uploading, downloading was just terrible. Like not worthwhile at all. As a backup that you never wanted to access, sure, but if you wanted to actually use the file live off of the backup, which is what I wanted, it didn't serve my needs. And that's the problem with most affordable, they call them NASs, or network attached services. As hard drives that are networked and attached to your computer, usually the upload and the download is too slow for you to actually use as an active storage. It's good as cold storage, something you don't need to access very often, but if you want to work off of it as a live data, you got to spend more money. Had a bunch of Seagate backup plus portable drives, 2 terabytes each usually, and they're affordable also, and they work great for Mac and PC. But the problem is the connections, like within a year, because they're not very rugged, and the connections would break. So I had to replace the adapters or replace the cables to the drives themselves. So I don't find them, they're not good for long-term storage. And I'm using this Blue Yeti mic. I'm sure many of you have heard of it. For a cheap, affordable, good, moderate quality and excellent quality for Zoom, highly recommend it. But now, I need like at least 9 computers for staff before COVID anyway. I needed 9 computers. And they're all in my house here. So I needed to find some affordable computers that I could afford on my own, because there was no money from the grants that we have to buy them. And a lot of the multitasking that we need to do with big teams remotely means I went to like multi-monitor situations where my really good desktop computer has two slots for two video cards. And I have really good video cards here on that computer, including, actually that's on the cheaper one. Sorry about that. And by having two video cards, I can support up to 8 monitors. I don't need 8, but I have 4. And that allows me to really multitask and connect and share screens and see. So I have one screen that you don't see where I'm managing all the files in Zoom, and one screen for this very awkward PowerPoint keeps advancing, and another screen for other stuff. So it just makes it possible. And yeah, it costs money, absolutely. But save up as much money as you can to try to support these environments. The other thing, thanks to the grant that I was able to buy, is a Synology NAS, network and touch server, and it has these 6 bays, and you can put as whatever terabyte external hard drive you want in there, up to 10 terabytes. So this can feasibly hold up to 60 terabytes. And it is networked, so you can get it to your local computer situation, but you can also back it up to the cloud and have your national or whoever collaborate and access across up to 60 terabytes of space. So this is how I've gotten around almost at the top of the 1 terabyte limit for most cloud storage accounts. Is buying this, and it's not cheap. It's like, this one's about $4,000 with all of the hard drives and everything inside it. But it's, if you can find that kind of cash, there are much cheaper ones for $1,200, $1,500. But if you can find up to $3,000 or $4,000, I can only afford it because of the grant. Then you can start getting into having lots of backup space for yourself. I've found the Rode Podcaster. If you really want to get into much better audio quality, the Rode Podcaster is an excellent USB mic. I'm using the cheap one today just because it's sufficient for Zoom. For webcams, I find the Logitech C920 or C9, more recently C922s are really affordable and good quality for streaming, and moderate quality for video. If you just really want to make HD video, then they're of moderate quality. And that's pretty much it. In terms of the Pond Station, I do want to mention the benefit of having multiple monitors in your setup with these little arms that attach to your desk means you can do landscape and portrait on your monitors. And when I'm writing a grant and it's really late at night and I'm tired and any time I have to move the mouse to advance to the next page, it's just something I don't want to do. Being able to flip the monitor around to see more text at a time has just been a really big help. And I also have a Wacom. I don't find they last terribly long. I've always had an issue after about 2 or 3 years with them. But if you're collaborating a lot on whiteboards, using your mouse to draw is really, really difficult. So having a drawing tablet or using your iOS or Android tablet with a good pen to draw with your pens is something that's also been really key to working with teams in the digital space. So that's just a little bit of all the hardware that's driving all of this. And you can go and look at it in more detail in the PDF.
We have a physical shared drive, 2 terabytes, and only one person could work on a file at a time. Set work. I would like to have an efficient system that allows for various people to work on different files, which are variously accessible to all staff.
Yes.
Google Drive does not seem to have quite the solution, and the participant also likes Excel.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I have a bunch of those 2 terabytes as well, and only one person can work on the file at once. Like, you can all access, you can network and share that drive, but you can only one person can only use the one file at one time. And that's what we want to avoid when we're collaborating in COVID and the pandemic. We need more than that. So that's what we're going to talk about next. Regrettably, most of the solutions I'm going to talk about are much more affordable for not-for-profits than they are for single entrepreneurs. However, I will offer you a reduced, free account through ArtsPond to my chosen service, which we'll get into a little bit later. Any individual that wants access to my chosen service for like a year, I will give it to you for free. Just through ArtsPond, I'm able to do that. So we'll learn which one it is. So for productivity, there are two big ones, Office 365 and the G Suite. So there's Office 365 for not-for-profits, and there's G Suite for not-for-profits. There's also Office 365 for personal and business, and G Suite for personal and business. It is possible for Office 365 and G Suite for not-for-profits to get them for free. It is not possible for personal and business for either of those. You've got to pay something. And usually it's too much, unfortunately. But it is, if you have access to a not-for-profit that can support you, or you work for a not-for-profit, the most affordable options for collaborating in the cloud with full-featured comprehensive solutions is Office 365 and G Suite through not-for-profits. There are a bunch of other, and I'm sure these aren't any surprise to any of you. Very few of these offer collaboration tools. They're more like, a version of specific applications like Word or Docs or Excel and Sheets. They're either open source or very free. So LibreOffice, OpenOffice, Polaris Office, they're all free open source alternatives. And for those that aren't using Microsoft or iWork for Apple, I'm sure you're already using many of these, so I don't think these will surprise you. However, I do know that some of them, in particular OpenOffice, are working on, and I haven't actually looked in a year or so, but I knew they are working on creating a collaborative tool, like an online version, a cloud computing version of the software. So keep an eye out for that. I don't know when it'll be ready. If it's already there, I'm not sure. I didn't have time to look. I meant to, but I ran out of time. There are, in these open source free software solutions, there are some efforts to get to the next reality of how we all work in the cloud. So keep an eye out for that. And in fact, Dropbox is taken that cue with the design and launch of Dropbox Paper, which is very much like Google Docs and Office 365 version of Word. It allows you to collaborate on creating documents that are actually very accessible. Like they have a lot of support for text readers for people that are blind. It's got the kind of the most current technology in terms of accessibility, and it works well across all devices. It's really simple, easy interface. So if you're already using Dropbox and you didn't know there was this paper application, you might want to look at it. And if you just need a document sharing and that you don't have yet, and you don't like the Google Suite version of it, try it out, see if you like it. OnlyOffice comes out of Latvia. I've not tested it myself, but it's the only one that I can find most recently that's very robust and is based in the cloud and has free versions of it. So I need to audit this one a little bit more. I've not tried it out myself, but it looks quite promising. Okay, so let's go into more detail now about the two big ones and what I see the differences are and why basically why I chose one over the other. So Office 365 for not-for-profits are both free. For personal and business, the plans in US dollars vary between $3 and $7 a month. So roughly, I'd say $5 and $9 to $15 a month, which adds up when you don't have a lot of money. Both offer unlimited users under different plans. In the Office 365, you can actually have unlimited to a certain degree at 1 terabyte of storage each. I believe under the not-for-profit edition, it's limited to 300 users at 1 terabyte of storage each. Whereas the unlimited number of users, it's 30 gigabytes each. I'm sure you've all run across this at G Suite. It's not a lot of storage. And this is the not-for-profit version. For individuals, it's less than that. However, if you have less than 5 users in G Suite, I believe you can get up to 1 terabyte of storage per user. Conferencing, the Teams is a relatively new application. It only launched in the last essentially 2 years. It's only become a mature platform in the last 9 months or so. And it supports up to 10, under the not-for-profit, up to 10,000 users. But really, it's best at up to 250 for active day-to-day collaboration. Whereas Google Meet is really only up to 250. And for the free version, it's 100 users. It's capped at that. There's different benefits that the two offer. If you're really looking at getting into digital platforms and building digital platforms, the benefit for, and we're taking advantage of this, we're building software. There's 3,500 or about almost 4750 Canadian dollars of Azure support, which is cloud computing, access to cloud computing applications that are really needed to develop software. So that's one of the benefits that Microsoft Office is offering to not-for-profits. And Planner is a new application that really isn't mimicked at all or available under the G Suite that I can find. And we'll talk about Planner a little bit later. The G Suite offers 10,000 US up to, depending on the size of your not-for-profit, in US AdWord benefits, which is free text advertising and Google searches. And Google Maps and Google Earth are also awesome applications that are really not replicated in the Office 365 situation. Overall, if I had to summarize the difference between the two, there are 3 issues. Office 365 tries to be your one best comprehensive solution for everything you could ever feasibly need in your back office administration. And while it is available for both Mac and Windows, the development path over the last couple of years, Mac, it's always been behind Windows. So, for example, Teams, there is an app for Mac as well as a Windows interface, but it doesn't work as well on Mac. Just find Teams is much better on Windows. So there's more development that needs to happen around the Teams application. So if you're in a Mac environment, Teams may not work as well for you as a Windows environment. So Office 365 is very comprehensive, but it really just works best in Windows. Whereas G Suite, okay, it is trying to be comprehensive, but it doesn't have absolutely everything. The situation is not in terms of how the applications talk to each other are not streamlined. It's actually a whole bunch of associated applications, and they're all at different links, and the experience is a bit decentralized to the extreme, we'll say. But it's platform agnostic. It works well in any browser or in any computer. And the experience with Office 365 is trying to offset that kind of decentralized many links for Google to have, okay, you can log into one website and everything is there, not needing to click out and find another application link. The features in the experience are also very established. Like everything you could ever want is there, at least in the vast majority, whereas Google doesn't offer you everything, but allows a lot of easy customization, adding third-party applications to extend. So G Suite the experience is much easier to learn and adapt to, whereas Office 365 is a bit tougher to learn because the features are already there and it's not expecting you can extend, and I do extend quite a bit. But it's hoping that you don't need to. You can just keep it simple because they offer you so much more. So that means Office 365 environment is that much harder to learn than the G Suite. But if you get lost and can't find things easily, like me, then you're going to like the Office 365 environment. It feels just safer. everything is together, not decentralized all over the place. There's lots of applications here. I think probably all of the Google ones you would have heard of, but perhaps there's some here that you may have not have heard of on the Office 365, such as Yammer, which is like Currents. It's kind of social networking amongst teams. And Stream, perhaps you've not heard of. It only launched last year. It's a video platform. We use it for an intranet, an internal video training internet, but it can be used as a public video streaming site also. So you may have not heard of that one. OneNote, I'm surprised not many people know about it. It's a free application that just does note-taking that syncs across all devices, and it works really well on Mac and on PC, on Windows. The rest you probably will have heard of, and we're going to talk about some of these as we go through the orientation on the platform that I use. But if you're just not sure how they compare to each other, this is a quick one-to-one list that you can get from the PDF to understand how they're all connected. So, vote. Should we do a quick vote? Hands up. What do you think I've chosen? Google or Office 365? Any bets? We're going to take a break for 5 minutes now. And over the break, if you want to mull that over, what is Jessa and ArtsPond using? What do you think? And then we'll have the answer after that. I chose Office 365 because I'm primarily in a Windows environment. Like 80% of the users that we work with are in Windows environment, and there are lots of benefits, and the comprehensive approach is very strong for Windows in Office 365, and it's still very good. The only sacrifice we have to make for our Mac users is when we're video conferencing, we use Zoom or some other, Jitsi or Google Meet for video conferencing when we have Mac users on the team, just to support them. There are team solutions for Mac, like, don't get me wrong, it's there and they're quite robust, but I find they don't work as well as we would like. They're just a little bit buggy. I'm sure they'll be addressed in a few months, but for now we're using other solutions for the teams when we have Mac users needed for the meetings. So I see some other questions. So you can get, if you're a member of Techsoup Canada, and if you're not, you should be. So go get a free membership at Techsoup if you're a not-for-profit or a charity. You get heavily discounted discounts towards hardware and software at Techsoup Canada, and I've given you the link for the blog article about being able to access the Office 365 for not-for-profits. And I believe the edition number you want is N3. There's different editions, but N1, N2, and N3. N3 is the one for not-for-profits that's free, and it's very robust. Like basically what I've listed here on the screen for Office 365, it's what's available for both not-for-profits and charities. So we're not a charity. We get access to all of this. There's an admin fee, a one-time administrative fee to apply through TechSoup. I believe, I can't remember what it was, but it's small. It's like less than $40. And then within 10 days, usually, it's approved by Microsoft, and you get your login information, and away you go. So yes, my environment, we've chosen Office 365, mostly because of the 1 terabyte limit. Prior to that, I used Google almost exclusively for our cloud collaboration. But it was that memory limitation that really meant I didn't want to use it anymore, because I needed 100 gigabytes. And I was literally patching Box and Dropbox and Google and OneDrive personal accounts. Like it was just like multiple Dropbox accounts, multiple Box accounts, multiple Google Drive and multiple OneDrive accounts, and some on my Apple as Mac ones as well, iCloud and so on. And it was just really messy and frustrating as heck, as fork, shall we say. To have to work with, especially as we got, 2 or 3 people could manage it. They could remember where everything is. But once we have more than 5 or 6 people on the team, it was just becoming impossible. I see we have some other questions about Keep versus OneNote, Teams versus Meets, and so on. They're all essentially the same. It just depends. Do you want a really refined and centralized interface that doesn't allow you to customize it very much? You can customize, but it's that much harder to customize in Microsoft. You need to know what you're doing. It's hidden. Whereas in Google, it's so much easier to add an extension because it's browser based originally. It's so much, and they're just there's such a bigger marketplace for Google extensions. So it really just depends on whether you're comfortable using an interface and learning all its intricacies in its established way, or if you want something that's much simpler in its interface, but can be extended in almost endless numbers of ways in terms of connecting to other associated applications. So OneNote is essentially a book. So it has chapters and sections. You can have endless numbers of chapters and endless numbers of sections in each chapter. And each section is a whiteboard. And you can put anything you want on it. You can draw on it. You can make notes. You can attach images. You can create task lists and check them off. It does pretty much anything, and it's free. It's a free application, so you don't need to have an Office 365 account. You can just go to onenote.com and download the software and sync it on your laptop, your desktop, and your mobile and your tablet, all across using the same email address. And it's all free. So, if you're in school, I highly recommend you look at it. Google Keep is essentially the same thing. I used to use it for a while, and I've not used it in a long time, but it's essentially the same thing. It's a bunch of whiteboards, and you can add sticky notes and raw notes and so on. The difference between Teams and Meets, that's a much more detailed conversation, and really Teams in so many ways is much more comprehensive in terms of what it's trying to do than Meets. Meets is a conferencing and chat function. Teams allows you to share files and calendars and chat and have video meetings. It's really robust. In fact, Teams connects every application across all of Office 365. So it just really depends. If you want something simple, then I would go with Meet. And if you want something that's a bit more meaty and Meets is not working for you, I'd really look at Teams. But just be aware it's not working as well for Mac, and it's heavier. It's heavier on bandwidth. So if you have people in rural, remote, or northern regions, it's going to take up more bandwidth. The Meet application is lighter because the services it offers are simpler. But if you can handle the robustness of the features and a little bit heavier load on your bandwidth, then Teams, I think, is perhaps the way to go. I think a year from now, Teams will beat Meets and everything else that Google is offering in the suite, including Google Voice and Chat and the old application Hangouts. I think Teams will beat it hands down in about a year for Windows, and probably a year and a half to 2 years for Mac. They just need time to fix all the things that are wrong with it. So if you're not on Teams yet and you're on Mac, I would keep an eye out for it. Try it out in a year from now. Try it out now. See if it works for you. But it's a very robust platform, and I think it's going to become a market dominator in the future. Obviously, there's Zoom, and we'll talk about that later when we talk about other software solutions. But hopefully that answers your questions. If there are others, feel free to put them into the chat. Oh yeah, so we had a question, what is Yammer, Stream, and Sway? So I'm actually going to just show those to you in a second. But Yammer is a social network for Teams. So Teams allows you to chat. So Microsoft Office 365 Teams allows you to chat with your teams, but then Yammer allows you to create a social network around various teams. And it just has a more engaging interface. The most comparative software I can think of is Slack. Yammer is trying to be Slack. So if you're using Slack and you know what I mean, that's the comparator. Sway is a content creator, mostly for web. So it's a drag and drop interface. It allows you to create something you can share. It doesn't allow you to edit or look at the code behind it. But if you want to create a web page to share out, that's what Sway does. And there's equivalent of that. What's it called? I put it down. Where is it? I've forgotten what it is. There is an equivalent for Google that I have later, I think. And Stream is a video streaming platform, internal or external. So it's meant to, it's very early, only launched about 9 months ago, and it's trying to compete against YouTube. We use it inside Office, like eventually, that's what they're trying to get at. But for now, it's like we use it as an internet for video training. So to have all of our internal videos to train staff, we record them and upload them into streams, and it's a private network. They don't need to go to YouTube. We can view the videos in there. And I'm actually going to demo all of those to you shortly.
What do you mean centralized versus decentralized?
Right. Okay. So centralized means that you go to office.com and everything you need is that one in that interface. You don't need to go to a subdomain. It's all located and there's links to everything. It's all centralized into like for dummies. You can access everything. Where Google is like, it's gmail.google, like, and there isn't like a one interface where you can go and you think, yeah, sure, there's the 9 little buttons that you can drop down and you can get many of them there, but it's not built for that. It's a bunch of applications that are gradually being patchwork together, but it's much more of a decentralized experience. Okay, where's Google Drive again? What's the link? You have to know what all the links are to get access to the software. Whereas Office, there's one link, portal.office.com will take you to Office 365 and you don't need to leave that link. That's what I mean by centralized versus decentralized. Excellent question. In terms of your hardware, in fact, I will dedicate myself to doing a hands-on how to build your own computer from scratch. There's lots of them out there, but I don't have the money right now. But say this time next year, keep an eye out on ArtsPond because I need to build a new computer. I want to build a new computer, and I'm currently saving up to build a new computer. So I will pre-record or we'll have a live stream of me building it from scratch and making decisions about all the hardware, motherboards and memory and all that stuff. And so that'll be coming. But in the short run, I think Dell, if you need a workhouse laptop, Dell XPS 15, and it's actually the computers that I've bought. So in the previous slides, it is mentioned here. Dell XPS 15, the 7590 is a slightly cheaper one, like $1,500 to $1,700, maybe $2,000. It depends how much RAM and memory you get, hard drive. And the Dell XPS 9750 is like the equivalent of the best MacBook Pro that you can buy. And it's easily $1,000 cheaper. So you can get it for $2,500 to $2,700, and the equivalent for Mac is $900 more. And so these are the computers that I have, and they're awesome. I love them. They're survivable in terms of saving up some money. I can moderately expensive as opposed to very expensive.
And we have a question, and it's how much budget for a new computer?
How much do I budget for computers?
Yeah.
So it depends on what your needs are. Like, and we could have a whole discussion about this. So this ThinkPad, Lenovo is the name of the computer. Lenovo down, where is it? Here, Lenovo ThinkCenter. The S5010 is older. The M720S is a more recent, like a year ago. And they're $800 computers, but with 4 gigabytes of RAM, they just don't work well for multitasking. or like video editing or Photoshop. Like if you really want to be doing, or you want to have more than one application on at the same time, you need 8 gigabytes of RAM as minimum. 16 gigabytes is a little bit better, and 32 gigabytes is like super awesome. And 64 is, or 128 is like amazing. So you can get a relatively okay computer, a workstation. No, it's not nothing special, but you can get a relatively good one. Lenovo or Dell are the 2 Windows makers, I think, that are the most affordable for $500 or $750. And then if you spend between $1,200 and say $1,600, you'll get a moderately good computer. And if you can splurge to $1,900 to $2,100, you'll get an awesome computer. And the key elements to look for are your RAM. So 4 gigabytes of RAM is not very much. 32 gigabytes is no longer very much, but it's good. Like it used to be the maximum, but now you can get like 128 or more in modern computers. So 32 is not very much, but for most applications, 32 or 64 for Windows and video editing and so on. 64, 32 is awesome. But my 2 laptops, I have 16 gigabytes and I don't really notice that much of a difference. For the kinds of stuff I'm doing day to day, I don't notice the difference a lot, except for video editing. Then I notice the difference. The processing time is longer. Hopefully that answers some of your questions. Any additional questions, we will put them down in chat and I'll answer them either on a blog article on ArtsPond's website or in the Google Drive document. But we should move on to what I want to show you around.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Just if shortly I got a question, how much are you budgeting for the computer you'll be using next year?
How much am I budgeting for the computer that I want to build? $3,500.
Thank you.
And I could get away with 2.5, but I want an awesome computer. I want the best available. And if I bought it pre-built, it would probably be $5,000 to $6,000. But I can build it for half that. If you build it yourself, $3,500 instead of $6,000. I could build it for $30,000. If I buy all the parts and assemble it myself, $3,500. It saves to know how to do it yourself. And I literally just visited some websites and read. That's all I did. I'm not an expert in these kinds of things, but no, I'm happy to share my notes. Okay, so let's go into Office 365 and Excel. These are the same, from my point of view, these are your saving graces if you have a zero budget and you're a not-for-profit. You can't afford a CRM, constituency relationship management system. You can't afford a Quickbooks budgeting system, accounting system. You don't have a tool for contact management. You don't have a tool for budgeting. You don't have a tool for insights and learning and improving. Excel is your number one. It's literally the best software solution on the planet in my view in terms of what it can do. Yes, there's some power things that you need to learn, but this session and the third session of the 4 will uncover some of that in terms of the power features and how to do them. So let's do a quick overview of the Office 365 platform for those that it's completely new to you. So I'm just going to sign out because I'm currently logged into Office. Do you all see now Microsoft Hang On? You signed out of your account. Am I still sharing the proper screen? Okay, so you go to Microsoft, you have your account, and you just sign in. There's a quick handy dandy, and that's portal.office.com. That'll take you there to this long login, microsoftonline.com. And you put in your account. So I'm actually going to give you my admin account so we can see all of the backend. Actually, there's one important difference I should have mentioned in terms of why G Suite and why Office 365. The benefit of decentralized for G Suite is that a user makes a document, and whoever makes that document has control over the sharing rights. When that person then leaves, it's a massive headache because if they're gone and you don't know their password, like when they leave, you have to get everyone to, when they leave, to change the rights of every document that they created under their own account to your admin account. And that literally has killed me in past organizations I work with, because we had 2,000, like a couple thousand, 20,000 files to change the rights to, because we didn't know what was going on. So it's a benefit because users can create and share however they like, but can create this disorganized chaos when someone leaves and they have all these files that they've created on their personal accounts. Office 365 has an admin account that allows that account to decide how sharing happens. It allows to limit users creating documents to share or allowing them to do that, and everything in between. So it's actually very robust and very powerful in terms of sharing rights. And I find it easy to use, but some may not like it. It's a bit of a learning curve. I don't find it that difficult. It's no more complicated than Dropbox or Box if you looked at the sharing rights under those platforms. But Google is very simple, and there's just long-term ramifications when you realize what the simplicity is doing to you, which is why I don't like Google. So if you can get past like a day or 2 days of learning and reading and so on around the administration backend for Office 365, then you have a lot of sharing control. So I'm actually going to log into the admin account for Office 365 as opposed to my day-to-day account. So I'll be able to show you all the features. So they're changing it every day, literally. So the experience that was, I was prepared to show last week is potentially different this week. And one thing that they have done is they used to have all the applications on the landing page in big icons. So Word and Excel and PowerPoint, all of these things in the browser window. So they have a Word, in case you didn't know, they have a Word version of Google Docs, and which is Word. And it's a slightly simplified version. About 70% of the standalone version of the software is available in your browser. Excel, it's about 60%. PowerPoint, it's about 50%, I think, in terms of what it offers. And I think eventually, like, all features will be available. So they had all the applications here on the landing page, but now they've changed it so that the most recent documents you've opened are there, and all your applications are off on the left-hand side. And they only put the most frequently opened ones, and then you can create a new application specifically, or you can go down here, which is new. This wasn't here last week. I discovered it this morning. There's a new link to all the applications. So these are all the applications that are available in Office 365. And then these are some of there's other, like, these are the main ones. And then there are a bunch of other ones that they offer as well with various syncing. And then there's third-party add-ons as well, which I'm not going to get into today, but it's possible to, for example, sync Slack or Boomerang or any other application that you might be using out there. It's possible to sync that up all with Microsoft. So just to quickly show you Word, for example, like, let's look at a grant application in Word. And I've actually gone to what's called Sharepoint. I didn't actually open the document. I went to the Sharepoint file. So let's come back to that. And there's the Word version. And I should be able to weapons. There we go, just a little bit slow. Saying, why do I want to see the ribbon? So the ribbon looks very similar to the full version of Word. Some of the things that, like, if you use tracking a lot in Word, there is tracking, but it's much more like the commenting and editing, reviewing feature that is in Google. It doesn't have the same deep functionality for tracking that the standalone does. Another problem I find, or a difference, is when you embed an image that takes up the whole page in your Word standalone version, and you go and look at it in the Word browser version, it's actually offset. It doesn't display properly on the whole page, even though in the full version of Word, it is like flesh aligned right to the edge of the page. So there are some display issues around the online version, which is actually kind of tricky if you don't know that that's what's happening. And yes, I see a question: can two people open the document and edit simultaneously? So yes, this is why I chose Office 365, because I have the full functionality in the standalone of Word, Excel, PowerPoint, all of those applications, and all of those applications support live editing with multiple users all at the same time, commenting, chatting. So you can have comments up here and share. So let's actually, I've got this document here open and bringing it over to the window now. So here's the same file in the standalone. And if I start editing, it's a little bit slow, but it does sync up. It's not instantaneous, and I'm seeing like maybe I think it's not syncing up instantaneously because I'm the same user. I think that's why it's happening, but it does. It literally does happen. It's usually about 2 seconds. It's a 2-second delay, usually, and Excel it's about 5 seconds, a 5-second delay. So it's not as good. It like Google is instantaneous, and there is the same issue between I'm logged on in the same user under my laptop and my phone. Like Google is definitely better. But it is possible. It does work. I use it all the time in Office 365. And I'm not giving you a very good example here of Office 365 because I'm seeing it's not syncing at all. But it does work. I think it's because I'm logged in under the same ID here, and my computer here is not syncing properly. But it does. Yes, it does work. And that's why I chose it, because I like the standalone version of Word much better than Google Docs. And I like the idea, and Excel, like Excel is so much more robust than Google Sheets. And the idea of being able to share across multiple devices and share across and editing simultaneously across, as long as you know about the delay. And there it is, finally came in, okay? The changes on the sync. So that's a much longer delay than I'm used to. So as long as you know about the delay, you have that functionality that you don't in Google. Okay, so that's Word, just so you have a sense of it. Excel, just so you get a sense of what they all look like. And Outlook. The ones I really want to talk about in detail, a little bit more detail anyway, are Teams and SharePoint. And I'll just quickly show you Yammer. And I want to show you, Planner, and I'll show you Streams quickly. I actually really like Streams. It's been going from 1 staff to like 40 full-time and 100 volunteers. Like I didn't want to send them to Google at a private, send them all to, okay, what's the private link for the video that you want me to watch? No, I don't want to do that. I want to, they all log in, they have their ArtsPond email, they log in, and I send them to Streams, and I tell them, watch this video number. I don't need to give them the link. So let's do Streams first as an example. So you can create various channels. I have 2, an ArtsPond system, and we have a major project called Digital ASO, so we have videos for that. And basically you just upload your videos, and I've created various codes for them. So I tell my team member, please go to the stream, ArtsPond Systems channel, and watch APO0001, Intro to ArtsPond. And it's a half-hour video. And as soon as you upload the video, Stream creates a chat, like a transcript for you. So if you have, and I'm not going to play it, it takes about 3 or 4 minutes for it to generate out your captions. So it's very exactly what YouTube does. But now it's internal, and you can make it external if you like. But it's an internal training system, and I don't need to worry about all the links. It's all in the same location. And so if you have deaf staff or someone that needs a text reader, it's all here. And you can have comments and do all kinds of things around that video if necessary. So Streams is actually really great. Hub, or Planner, sorry, not Hub. Planner, if any of you have used Trello, Trello and Planner are basically the same. Microsoft wanted to create a like a project management application, and I think I don't know what they did, but I surmise they looked around at the industry and saw what was out there and decided, oh, we're just going to emulate Trello because it's the best project management application out there. So they're just trying to take over the world by stealing other people's ideas. Trello is an awesome application on its own. If you haven't used Trello, it's great for project management. Basically like putting a bunch of stickies on a channel or a bucket that you can name and keeping track of to-dos on your little stickies. And so Planner is very essentially the same thing and actually will sync to Trello seamlessly. So let's go and look at APO admin here. I'm not using this very much right now because my team doesn't need it. So there's a lot of old tasks here. But you have these Planner or Microsoft Office calls them buckets. So these are buckets, and these are like themes or task areas. So I have various administration, alliance, events, evaluation for this particular one. And then you can just add a task, which is like, it's white, but it's meant to evoke a sticky. And you can put whatever you want to show on that sticky, but there's so much more that you can, beyond the individual sticky, there's so much more that can be included in there. It just doesn't show up on the thing here, on the summary. So you can assign the task to people, you can add a label, you can decide whether the project has started or it's completed or it's in progress, what level of priority it is, when the start and end date is. You can have endless notes. You can have task lists and show those on the card, or you could show something else on the card, like your notes. If I type something in here, you can show that on the card instead of the task list there. You can check them off. You can add attachments, which are external or internal links. You can add comments. When you add a comment, it gets emailed to you. So you don't need to keep visiting this Planner task. And actually you can download a version for your application for your mobile devices as well. So you can sync up between your devices. But you don't need to keep visiting this because you'll get emailed anytime there's a comment. So you can kind of chat back and forth amongst your teams about this project, which is pretty cool. Okay, so, and then there's lots, so you can group by buckets, group by who it's been assigned to, progress or due dates. You can look at your tasks that are just for yourself, whether they're started or in progress or completed. If you've started it that way, but you can also do by due date or by plan or by priority. So it's actually pretty awesome in terms of what it can do. That's the quick overview. Yammer, I'm not using it that much. Our team is not using it that much because we don't need it. But basically it's a Slack, it's a team chat and sharing of links, and you can add various other functionalities to it using third-party tools. So you can have polls and all kinds of other things, but it's just meant to be an internal discussion. So you don't have to go to Facebook groups or go to Slack. You can stay all into your main Office environment here. SharePoint is where all of the groups that you create, and groups are an idea in Office. So you can create a group and it's shared across all of the applications. So I have ArtsPond has various programs. You may have heard of some of them. Ground Story, Artsy, Digital ASO is DSO admin, and COVID-19 is the task force. DSO advisory is the advisory for Digital ASO. So I have various groups that work across all of Office 365. And so there's an email that's associated with that group. There is a calendar that's associated with it. There's a file repository. There's a Yammer personal network, and so much more across the groups. You can do this in Google, but not to the same degree. So SharePoint itself, you click on, let's look at, which one will we look at quickly? Let's look at Artsy. So you can go to the Teams application. So SharePoint is kind of a landing page. It's like an internet for this project. And you can create documents. And we have a summary of the you can put so much on this landing page. I've not touched it, but you can do lots with it if you like, kind of as an internet. But there's a preview of all the documents. There's a link over here. If I open that in a new tab, it looks very much and functions exactly like Dropbox and Box and Google Drive and so on in terms of all your folders and being able to do various things with them, like share and delete and download and sync to your local computer and all that stuff you can do the exact same through SharePoint. But with SharePoint, there's also links to a notebook. So that's the application OneNote. So I can quickly, actually, this is going to take a long time to load, so because I have so much in here. A lot of drawings, which take a long time to load. But just an example, so here are all the chapters, and then just in with one chapter, all the sections, sorry, I called them chapters, but sections, and then pages. So in this one case, this is some of the software design for the Hatch Open Artsy United software platform, just some of the thinking, so just a bulleted list. But as an example for drawing, and this will take a minute to load, so we'll come back to it. You can see a bunch of hand drawings that are very messy because I'm still figuring out how to use the tablet to draw. But we'll come back to that in a second in terms of what OneNote can do. The Teams and conversations are just it's that Teams version of Meet and Skype and all of that. So we'll come back to Teams in a second. I'm just keeping an eye on time, so I don't want to get anyone lost by doing this really quickly. But anyway, SharePoint is, I used to be scared of SharePoint. I used to think of, oh, I know all these large organizations, like Ontario Arts Council. It's not a large organization, but here in the arts, I knew Ontario Arts Council had been using SharePoint for 20 years. And it used to be something that was only associated with large organizations who had a lot of money and a lot of complexity. But I actually love SharePoint, and it's actually very easy to use. SharePoint is the way to connect Word, Excel, Outlook, your Teams, your video conferencing, your notebooks, your files, and everything across like large teams. And it's really seamless in terms of how it works, and it's really powerful. And you can do almost anything you want with it. But even the basic ones, like linking to the documents, linking to the notebook, let's see if it's loaded here. Nope, still loading, it's a little bit slow in the online version here because it's a complicated page. But I find SharePoint is really powerful. And there's always more than one way to get to it. So for example, we were looking at the Artsy SharePoint group. When I go to the Outlook, which is the equivalent of Gmail or Mail on Apple, down here you have various groups. And so there is a group email. And so you can see who are members. By clicking on this, we can see who all the members are of that group. And if you want to change their roles as an administrator, I can change all their roles. I can see all the emails that's been sent to that. I can get access to the SharePoint files. And there's one email which is the name of the group. So in this case, artsy@artspond.com is not someone from externally emails, it doesn't work, but internally, artsy@artspond.com will work for the 30 members that are in the team. So if you don't know all the members' emails, you can just send an email and automatically get sent to everyone, which is really beneficial. You can get to the group files that I showed you through SharePoint. There's a group calendar, so you can set up team events and task lists and so on through the group. And you can get to the notebook, you can get to the planner for that, the planner site for this group, and other issues. There's an Outlook calendar in Outlook, there's a to-do list, which is for to-dos, and there's a contact manager. All very, very robust in terms of contact management. The to-do list is very simple. It's just meant to be, oh, I have something to do, and I need to log in. So I'm not going to show it to you, but it's just a checklist of things to do. It's very, very simple, but if that's what you need, it works well. I don't use it, but I use Outlook tasks instead. What else should I show you? Let's look at Teams. So Teams, you can see we're using this for chat. And this is actually, in a meeting itself, in a video conference, this is a history of the chat into the Teams. You can create, you can have a dialogue, kind of like Slack, right here inside Teams. And under sub conversations, there's your calendar, where all your events are, and joining the various calls, and so on. So it's pretty much Teams is Skype ramped up on speed in a good way. Microsoft, if you didn't know, bought Skype not too long ago, and made it Skype for Business. Became a Microsoft application, and Skype for Business is going to go, and I think Skype as well will go eventually, and it'll just be Teams. Okay, so that's it for Office 365 for now, as a really quick overview to get a sense of what it looks like. What I want to do now, though, is move into some of the third-party applications and talk through some of those and leave time for your questions. And I also want time for one more break. So we'll just start in on finance. Is everyone ready for finance applications? Maybe you've heard of many of these already, but these are the ones that kind of inspire me. I haven't used all of them, but I'm aware of them, and I know they've inspired people that they've kind of been recommended to me. Wave and FreshBooks, I think, are the best for independent folks, and they're both Canadian. So if you want to support a Canadian company, Waves is free for entrepreneurs and single sole proprietorships. And it's an account, it used to be just an invoicing, so creating invoices application, but now it does bookkeeping, accounting, and they just recently launched a reconciliation to bank accounts. So it's becoming quite a robust software solution. And FreshBooks is a Canadian alternative to Quickbooks. It's a very robust solution and kind of beats it out on a daily basis with Quickbooks in terms of which is the most preferable. I think FreshBooks is a little bit better for entrepreneurs and individual workers and sole proprietorships and small collectives. They're both available for cloud, and Wave is available on all your various devices, Mac and iOS and Android and so on. FreshBooks is in the cloud, as is Quickbooks. I use the standalone version for Quickbooks. I don't use the cloud because, again, I don't have a budget for it. The year after year cost of QuickBooks Online, even though it's pretty much the same as the standalone. But I bought it for $40 or something like that through TechSoup, the standalone. And it's very robust and it meets my needs. I don't need to collaborate digitally online for my accounting. If you need to, I would look at FreshBooks or possibly QuickBooks Online, or if you're a simple organization, then Wave will probably meet your needs. Mint and Xero, or others you may have heard of. Xero is not as appropriate for the arts and culture sector, but it's a pretty robust solution as well. Got a question, do these integrate with your taxes? To some degree, they all do. Wave, I don't believe does. I've not used it in a while, so I would need to look and see. It's a good question. QuickBooks yes, QuickBooks does, FreshBooks does, I believe, and Xero and Mint, I believe, do also. It's a nice question about taxes. So how do you report your taxes to the government? Like there's UFile and a whole bunch of them. The one that I like that's free is SimpleTax. Simpletax.ca allows you to prepare through various questions, and I'm an entrepreneur, and I have a complicated employment situation. I have self-employment income, I have multiple sole proprietorships, I have not-for-profit contractor income, I have not-for-profit employment income, and Simpletax.ca pretty much meets my needs for reporting. It's a little bit, it's on the edge, that's for sure, because I have so many of them, but it meets pretty much all of my needs. If you have your books prepared yourself and you're ready and you just need help to report it out to the government, SimpleTax is a great one. Almost everyone, like UFile, are free if you have low income. So you don't need to move to SimpleTax if you've never heard of it and you like the one that you're already using. You don't need to move to SimpleTax, but and it's right there on the website, simpletax.ca, on the shared screen. I see it's Victoria, thank you. Let's put it there on the website. You can donate. They ask for donations if you want, but once you get a person beyond a certain amount of income, UFile requires you to pay like $16 or $20. And sometimes at the end of the year, when you're waiting for your tax rebate, $20 is the difference between no eating and not eating. So I like it anyway. If you want help with budgeting, there are so many budgeting tools out there, and there's not a lot that's actually built specifically for the arts, but there's some that are kind of fun and inspiring if you're trying to manage your personal budgeting along with some of your employment income. So YNAB, or You Need a Budget, it's built around family and personal, but it's actually really intuitive. I like how it's organized. I like how it's quite easy to use, and there's free versions for all of these things. That all of these tools have free versions. So You Need a Budget is something you could check out. Pocketsmith. So You Need a Budget is from the US. Pocketsmith, I think, comes out of New Zealand. It's just a different interface, a different experience. You could check it out. Wally.me is tracking your receipts and so on, and as well as your budgets and invoicing. And Good Budget is just another budgeting tool that may help. So check it out. It all depends on what your needs are. Other financial tools. We've all heard of Patreon, I'm sure. Ko-Fi, I just found out about. It's another alternative for like tips and small donations, like $2 or 50 cents or $5 or $10 for your project. So if you want to try that out for say a live event, you don't want to send them to a long-term monthly donation at Patreon, but you do want to receive tips at your event. Ko-Fi is maybe something that might meet your needs. I'm about to try out Milo, which is at mokai.ai. It's an investing platform that, and maybe you've heard of it, but it's the idea of micro investing. So you buy a coffee for $2.50 or $2.55, and if you're connected to your transactions through Milo, it will round it up to $3 and invest that 50 cents or 45 cents into your agreed upon investments. And it will, up to $1 million, I believe, is eligible in terms of tax write-offs and so on through this platform. So maybe that's something that you might want to look at. And there are lots of other applications like it. Just the idea of support around auto investing in small increments, because I used to have a investment portfolio, and I was unemployed for like 2 years, and I ate through all of it. I'm 50 and I have 0 investments. And I'm kind of going month to month during the pandemic, like I'm sure all of us are. And I'm not actively investing. So I need to think about that as I age. So something that isn't a huge investment, and I don't need to think about it, but it helps invest for me is something I'm considering. And it's $1 a month or something like that. It isn't nothing, but it's not a lot either. For financial support, I'm sure all of you have heard of Generator's artist producer resource.ca, but if you haven't, there you go. The Trillium Foundation, if you don't understand bookkeeping and accounting and the difference and what are all the key terminologies and concepts that you need to understand bookkeeping and accounting, then Financial Lit, the Ontario Trillium Foundation, help fund that. Financiallit.ca I find is a good, useful introduction to the concepts of bookkeeping and accounting and what you need to understand to be able to use software like QuickBooks and FreshBooks. I just want to, if you don't mind, a little bit of a self-plug in terms of an opportunity that's coming soon. I believe our first private alpha, so not a public beta, but a private alpha, so like very early software solution by invitation only, will be available in May of next year. And that software solution is called Hatch Open. It's an open source, it is an open source solution. And it will be available through artsy.ca, artse.ca. And that's actually, website is up right now. Artsy.ca is a platform cooperative that you will own and govern all the data and all the public information that you're sharing, you will own. And any revenue that's generated from the platform beyond your own revenue, so surplus revenues, will be paid out to members of the cooperative. So we're trying to see it as it will offer financial management services, basically like Wave and FreshBooks and Simple Tax and Quickbooks and Mint and Xero. Also offer impact investing, crowdsourcing supports like Patreon and Ko-Fi and so on. It will offer eventually, not soon, but eventually it'll offer CRM, so marketing and fundraising supports. Asset dissemination like Stream and YouTube eventually. But what we're building right now is financial management, budgeting, invoicing, receipting, and payment processing, along with like a Patreon attracting support and investment in your careers. So we have just a little bit of an insight what our approach is it's as automated as possible. So, and it's customizable, like endlessly customizable. So if you have a 30 chart of accounts, including revenues and expenses, or you have 600, or you have 2,000, you can create whatever chart of accounts you want, or you can use ours and it'll map automatically. So you can have your custom chart of account and it will map automatically to our chart of accounts. So that, and our chart of accounts will map to T1 General and T2 Corporate and T3010 charity returns. So you can have your numbers in your chart of accounts, and it will map automatically to ours, and then you can report to what, and CADAC and so on. All of your financial figures will by clicking a button, will be able to generate out to whatever form you need. And it'll be all automated as much as possible. That's for the budgeting and so projected and actuals. Then there'll be a payment processing for invoices and receipts. And just like Patreon, you'll be able to have a public profile of your artistic work, activity, dreams, and so on. And selling of goods, of artwork. And we'll kind of payment process all of those financial transactions. And help encourage investment in your work. So the first private alpha by invitation of the budgeting tool should be available in the spring. And the full financial solution, budgeting, and the kind of the Patreon investing side of it should be available by this time next year. Just a little bit of a plug on what we're working on here at ArtsPond with the Digital Strategy Fund support. So here's a big list. Some of you may know, some of you maybe don't know. And I just put the PDF, the hyperlink directly to the PDF. All the hyperlinks should be clickable in the PDF, so you have access to all of this. But let me talk through some of these. And some of you maybe don't know. Hopefully there's some here that you don't know, but these are like the top 30 that I try to rely on when Microsoft Office 365 and Google don't really meet my needs. So, and actually some of them are Google and some of them are Microsoft, but they're often not considered within the platform. Like OneNote, for example, is very much different. It's included in Office 365, but it's also just its standalone application as a keeping track of things. You don't need to have an Office 365. As I mentioned, it's free. Evernote is an alternative. There's paid plans, but there are also free plans. And I used Evernote in the early days a lot to keep track of things and in terms of note-taking and so on. I used to use Pocket a lot as a web browser, keeping track of all the links and so on. But I now use my Chrome browser bookmarks because I'm trying to sync across a large team and just find using the browser a little bit better. But for personal use, Pocket is an awesome little application as you're browsing and finding things that you want to remember. Pocket is an awesome little add-on to your browser. Allows you to keep track of things in a nice little archive that you can organize, and Google Keep is very similar to OneNote. I used Hootsuite for a long time to help post across multiple platforms, and I like it to support a Canadian. Obviously, it used to be one of the largest kind of digital platforms out there. that's Canadian globally in terms of social platforms. But I find it the free, because again, I have no money, I can't afford it. I find the free limitations of, I think it used to be 3 and now it's like 2 or 3 accounts. When I have many, like I've got easily 8 accounts and then multiple accounts for each one. So Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and so on, across 8 different social media accounts. So I was having to constantly make new profiles and split it. So have like 3 ground story ones, 3 Artsy United ones, and sync up like Facebook and Twitter on one, and 2 others in a different one. It was just because I was using a whole bunch of free accounts. And Buffer really isn't that much better. It has, I think you can add 1 more account than Hootsuite will allow you. But I find the Buffer interface is so much simpler. So if you're struggling to make the best out of Hootsuite, Buffer is a good option for posting to social media in an easy way, a very intuitive way. If you saw my Excel spreadsheet, and if you're not comfortable using Excel for massive or even somewhat complicated lists, and you need a CRM, a content relationship management system, a database, whether you're using FileMaker or Access, but you want something in the cloud, FileMaker is too old now, I wouldn't use it anymore, and Access is only available on Windows. Then you want something in the cloud that's relatively powerful for the free account. And the best one that I could find more recently is HubSpot in terms of what it offers for free. There's always limitations, and there's so many others that I could recommend. And if you want other ones in the list, I just didn't have room on this page, but I'm happy to add more recommendations in the Google Drive document that we'll add after in terms of other ones to consider. But HubSpot is the one that I found is the best for the cheap plan, the free plan, in terms of the number of contacts that you're allowed. If you have a WordPress site and you've never heard of Civi CRM, WordPress is, and Drupal and Joomla, I believe, all have a free plugin for Civi CRM. And it's a very robust platform. Allows you to sell tickets and registrations to events, allows you to keep track of grants, people submitting grants to you, like grants proposals that you receive, as well as grants that are going out that you are proposing to. So grant management allows you to keep track of cases. So if you're dealing with clients and some of them are, because often in the not-for-profit sector, it's used in healthcare and psychology and social services to keep track of individual caseworkers, keeping track of their progress for their various clients. So if you have that kind of work, it has that. As a contact management system, of course, it does newsletters, it does all kinds of things, and it's free, it's open source, and WordPress is also open source. So it is a bit complicated to customize. But the out-of-the-box one isn't too bad in terms of complexity to learn how to use. It's just if you want to customize it, then it gets a little bit difficult. But out-of-the-box free, it's the best option I can find if you have a WordPress site or a Drupal or a Joomla site. It's a free plugin available at civicrm.org. Tracking your time. There are a lot of or your task lists. The best one that I could find, and I love it and I don't, but I love it far more than I don't. I'm just really picky about the interface experience, and there's some interface experiences that aren't perfect. But it's free. And it is endless number of users. So if you have a large team of volunteers and board members, or you have a large number of projects that you are trying to keep track of for yourself, Clockify is endlessly free for everyone. There is a kind of a paid service as well to keep track of payroll and things like that. But for timekeeping, like I have 140 people using it, and it's all free. And I have one account. I have a master account that they all report, like that every report, and everyone has their own accounts, all ArtsPond email accounts, 140 of them. And then they all of their reports get shared out to my admin account. So I can show it to you if you really want to see it. I can show you the interface and how it works. But I figure you could just go there and take a look for yourself. But if you really want to see it, I'm happy to demo it. Any of these you want me to demo, just kind of say so in the chat and I will show it to you. But the Clockify allows you to report out like endless numbers of team members, endless numbers of projects, endless numbers of tags. So I have tags for administration, fundraising, marketing, planning, production, etc. You can have endless number of tags, and the reporting feature is very quite robust, actually very robust in terms of monthly, weekly, specific. You can build a client, keep track of billing out to clients, and so on. It is the absolute best timekeeper app. Now, the data entry is not perfect. I want it to be perfect. And if they could spend a little bit more time on the user data entry experience to make it a little bit more fun, then I think it would be awesome. But it's a website, a plugin for Firefox and Chrome and so on. So many things to love about Clockify. If you don't like Clockify, get Harvest and a couple other of them. There's a couple others I could recommend as well. Another kind of timekeeping apps that are much more associated to very small teams or an individual on your phone, for example. Keeping track of tasks and projects, AnyDo, Trello, Planner, and Slack. I think maybe you've probably all heard of, but those are kind of the favorites that I have currently. Remote office is a big question. So how do you share your screen? So say like this happened for so many with COVID, where you have your computers at the office, but you're not allowed to go to the office anymore because of the pandemic. So, but all of your programs are there, and say you're at home and you have an Adobe Photoshop design deadline and you don't own Photoshop on your computer. Basecamp, I see that question. Yeah, awesome. Basecamp though isn't affordable. Like it's okay for the free, but really the best part of it is, sorry to sidetrack, but just to answer that question, Basecamp, it has a free version, but the best part of it is paid and it's very expensive. So I'm just giving you the recommendations for the ones that I think that are best, the free options are the best. There are many other ones, but these are the ones that I find that have the best free options available. Going back to like remote desktoping, so like you need Adobe Photoshop, but you don't have it on your computer. And that actually, I recommend this for like small teams or a bunch of artists that, pool together and buy a computer that's awesome and has all the software you want on it, and you each schedule like 1 day a week, you get access to that computer, or every like 3 hours a day or something, you schedule it out, and then using remote desktop software, you get access to that computer with all the awesome software on it from your own computer, which doesn't have it. And that allows you to gain all those benefits. And so the problem with remote desktops like TeamViewer, which is an awesome free application for personal use, it's amazing. You can have chats and share desktops across. So I have people chiming into my computers with Office and other or Adobe and other expensive software from all over Canada. We have a $6,000 software platform for data analysis. It's very expensive, and obviously, I'm not going to have multiple users for that. So they get access to it through remote desktops. The only problem is every solution I can find, none of them, the connections are 100% good. Like they always break down eventually, and you have to reconnect. So sometimes you might need to reconnect in 1 day 3 or 4 times. Another time it might be 10 times. Another time it might be only once or twice. And I've tried probably 20 remote desktop solutions, and they're all the same. They all break down. It's a problem. It's definitely a problem, but you need to get into the really expensive commercial ones to solve these solutions, and getting into VPN connections, virtual private networks, that can be kind of difficult on the the technology side to make it happen. But for free, Microsoft Remote Desktop and TeamViewer are pretty good. And as long as you can self-sacrifice having to connect a couple times, reconnect a couple times, so constantly saving, they can be a good solution for sure. For live transcripts, so a lot of people are trying to be accessible to people that are deaf or have some hearing challenges, and you want to have closed captions that are live, generated live. So I'm using Otter for this platform. You've seen the demo, and I don't think I actually have enough time. I can, if you want to see a live demo of it and how it works, I'm happy to show you how it works. But there's a free account for 500 minutes a month. And it's machine-generated auto-transcripting in English currently, but I think you can set it for other languages. And the paid account isn't that cheap, but it allows you 5,000 minutes a month. So that's what we're using. It's about $1,000 a year, I think, something like that, for 5,000 minutes a month. A free one, which I like actually a lot, is just webcaptioner.com. And it's totally free. It looks very much like, when you go to watch on television, and the default is those little black boxes down at the bottom with white text on top of the black boxes. That's what Webcaptioner looks like, although you can change it to look however you want. And if you give them your email address, as opposed to just going to the website, if you give your email address for a free email account, you can download the transcripts afterwards. And you can style, it defaults onto a black background with white text, all in capitals, but you can, if you give your email address, you can customize the font style and font face and so on to make it whatever, to look however you like. So as a free application, it's awesome. I used it for 2.5 or 3 years until I was able to afford Otter thanks to Canada Council Digital Strategy Fund. New in PowerPoint is relatively new anyway. I didn't see it about a year ago, is captions and subtitles. They're actually pretty good. I haven't figured out how to download a transcript of it, but it's possible to style in various ways, adding captions directly into your PowerPoint as well. Okay, I need a glass of water. Don't mind just a second.
So while you have some water, we did get a question. What about transcription services for meeting minutes?
So that's exactly what Otter does. It's transcripting live everything that is said. And webcaptioner.com, it doesn't recognize different voices. It's just a constant flow. But Otter is intelligent enough using AI to say, okay, I recognize after a while if a speaker speaks more than once, or if you buy the advance, the 5,000 minutes a month, it will connect, and you use it for Zoom. There's a connector for Zoom, and so it'll recognize the voice to your Zoom account, and it will just say speaker 1 as default, so it's anonymous. But if you want, you can identify it to the Zoom account names, or you can name the voices manually, and it will use voice recognition to rename every instance of that voice speaking later in the transcript. And an audio recording is saved along with the word transcript, so you can listen to the audio, because the transcripting accuracy is about 70%. Google has a transcripting, Microsoft Word has a transcripting service. Like, all of these things are possible. It's actually free and quite easy. Your local operating system on Mac and Windows would do it as well. But the idea of being able to edit out the transcript and share it out in the cloud and so on, Otter is really the best one that I found for that. That has some accessibility in terms of price with the free 500 minutes a month account. So it's definitely a live transcript. So your deaf people can go and watch and read the transcript live as a separate website. So I can put the link back up I put it up at the beginning. I think I might have turned it off. Where did I put it here? Here it is. I'll put it again. I think I'll have to go check if I turned it off or not. I hope I kept it live. No, I turned it off. Yeah, I turned it off. After 42 minutes, I forgot to turn it back on. So I'll turn it back on. So at that link, you'll just see a transcript. And if you don't pause, if you keep talking forever and ever, then it'll be a long paragraph. But if you breathe, then it'll create a new paragraph for sections. So as long as you remember not to go on and on and on, it will create a new paragraph. And that new paragraph, it will also do a new voice print capture. So it'll capture out the new voice, if there is one. If two people talk back to back, it's likely not to recognize that it's a new voice. So you want to work accurately, and this is the same for all of them, to give deaf people a chance to talk slowly, and breathe. Remember to breathe. I've been forgetting in this because there's a lot to get through and there aren't any deaf people. So. Okay, but yeah, Otter is awesome. I'm so glad I found it. Okay, so more tools. I want to give you time to, I want to give my voice a little bit of a break, but I also want to give you time to ask questions. So more tools that I like. Security. So I know so many people that keep track of their passwords in an Excel document. I do that too, just as a backup. But I also know so many people, and I just watch them. They save their passwords in their browser. Do not do this ever anymore. Stop. Please, desperately stop, okay? I can't say this more strongly enough. So if you're going, oh, Jessa, what do you mean? What do you mean? It's okay, it's not the end of the world. If you really don't want to move, then stay where you are. Keep saving your passwords in Chrome or Firefox, whatever you're doing. It's not the end of the world. But if you are at all concerned about security, it's especially okay on your desktop in your home that's not moving. But it really opens up security concerns on your laptop or on your mobile devices, your tablet or your phones. So this is if you're saving your passwords into your browsers. And when you have multiple devices, including desktops, laptops, tablets, and cell phones, syncing passwords across your browser is very risky. It's risky because there's only two-factor encryption. There's a little, I don't know all the technology behind it, but there's basically an encryption key stored on your computer that allows you to unencrypt the passwords that's stored in Google, wherever, or on your local computer. And so if you lose your computer or someone steals it and they get into your computer and you're logged in to your Google or whatever account, they're going to get access to all of your passwords, everything, because it's saved in the browser. There isn't a third factor, there isn't triple encryption. And the idea of triple encryption is that there is a master password that unencrypts on your local computer, and it also unencrypts in the cloud where the information is stored. And the cloud has a separate encryption key, your local computer has a separate encryption key, and without the master password, you can't encrypt either. So this is what triple encryption kind of means. And so there are lots of them. One password, I believe, is one for Mac. Lastpass is my favorite because it's available across all operating systems, and it's available for all devices. It has add-ons for your browsers, and it has separate applications that works on your computers and on your devices, and anything. The one restriction is for the free account is you can only have it on one type of computer, like on your laptops and on your desktops or on your mobile devices. If you want to sync your passwords in your browsers on various desktops and on mobile devices, you need to buy the premium plan. But I've been using LastPass for 4 years, and it's been all I've ever needed. Because I don't store passwords on my mobile devices. I just refuse to do that. It's too risky because I've lost and had too many mobile devices stolen. And so LastPass is awesome for a free encryption. It's stored in the web. and you have one master password, and anytime you log into a new website, it will recognize it and ask, do you want to add it to your LastPass vault? And you say yes or no. And away you go. And it syncs across, because it's browser-based, it syncs across a single email across any location anywhere in the world. So I encourage you to look at LastPass or other ones like it for getting your passwords out of your browser, because they're just not secure enough. If you're really keen on efficiency, so you have a task in Google or in Office in particular that you do all of the time, Zapier or if this then that are two. There's premium and not premium and free ones. The free ones, they're a little bit tricky to figure out, and actually not even a little bit, like minusculely difficult to figure out, especially for like simple tasks. Like if you want to, anytime someone posts about you on Twitter and you want to have that added to your list of posts about you in Excel, then you can create an if this, then that, or a Zapier event, and it will monitor whatever it is you're asking it to monitor, and away you go. And it's pretty unlimited. They can have things happen in Slack or in Google in terms of social media, or like if you add a new user in your contact list, then if this then that, you can, or Zapier can tell it to please send that new user this welcome PDF. You can do whatever you want, literally, with these things. So I highly recommend, if you're looking at, oh, I do things all the time, these are awesome tools to look at. Scheduling of emails, I'm really guilty of this, because I work a lot. I'm up at 3 in the morning often, and I'm sending emails at 3 in the morning, or I used to. And Boomerang does lots of stuff to schedule. So you can postpone the email sending to 9 a.m., a reasonable hour, even though you wrote it at 3 a.m., sends it out at a reasonable hour. So if you've not, and it syncs, it's available for Google and Outlook and all the applications. So if you've never heard of it, I'm sure most of you have, but if you haven't, I would look into it, and there are free plans for it. Drawing and all that good stuff, especially as we're known Zoom. Let's make Zoom meetings a little bit more interactive. MindMeister is a mind map application. Canva, I'm sure you know all of these. Canva, Lucidchart, and Miro are all kind of drawing and whiteboards. For video recording, I would love it if ShareX was available for Mac, but unfortunately it's not. So there are other ones like GreenShot, LightShot, and Snagit is the best, but there were data concerns a while ago because Snagit comes out of China, and there was some concerns about the privacy of data that it was capturing, was monitoring your usage in a way. I think it's been fixed, but because that was a while ago, but there's been some concerns around Snagit in the past, so user beware. But for those on Windows, if you've never heard of ShareX, I use it all the time to create training videos, because it will, it's free, it's open source, allows me to screen capture images or video, and it's really low file size, but you can make it HD if you want, but the defaults are nice and small, so I use that for creating the stream videos. I'm sure all of you have heard of Zoom. You may have not heard of Jitsi, which is an open source alternative to Zoom. Every platform, and there's so many others, and I would actually I'm working on a list because I've been hearing about a whole bunch that I've not known of. So I'll add that to Google as well in terms of other video conferencing solutions out there. None of them are great for live performance and low bandwidth for people in the north and so on. They all have their challenges. So we're kind of just having to sacrifice with them, especially with the high demand. But if you haven't heard of Jitsi, it is one of the more popular alternatives to Zoom out there. There are a lot of concerns about Zoom coming with how China is using it, and capturing of data and use of data. And there was a big event in China, the protest that Zoom clamped down on and prevented from happening politically. So a lot of people are trying not to support Zoom, and I'm one of those. I'm trying to find some good alternatives, but Zoom is the most accessible and the most stable and the most light for data usage that I've been able to find. If you're interested in insight and learning, session 3, we're going to go into pivot tables and more in Excel and how to use Excel for really summarizing out your impacts. But if you don't know about pivot tables, but they scare you, Tableau Public, as long as you're open to sharing your data publicly. Tableau Public is free and is essentially a pivot table application that allows you to create visualizations, charts, but they're all interactive. So you can create a map of all of your performances all around the world, and you click on a little button for Toronto, and up pops up, I don't know, 400 performances, and then you click on each one and you get details of each performance. So that's all possible to do using Tableau Public. All the newspapers use Tableau pretty much for, like, at least in Canada, I think like something like 60% of newspapers are using Tableau for a lot of their visualizations for infographics, especially for the interactive ones. So there is a purchase plan. You can buy it for, you can get a 2-year, I think, to the full robust version of Tableau through Techsoup for like $70 or something like that through Techsoup, and I've bought that, so I've got the full robust version. But if you're not a not-for-profit and just want to play with visualizing your impacts, Zotero public Tableau is pretty awesome. It's a massive organization. It's worth something like $1 billion now. It's really grown over the last. It's really only about 6 years old, I think, and it's grown massively and very, very quickly. For those that are research geeks and need to create bibliographies that are created automatically, not manually, my favorite free one that works across all devices and syncs up to the cloud and so on is Zotero. And it works on, because it's in the cloud, it works on all operating systems. Paperpile, I think, is just for Mac. There's a free account, but not really free. And Mendeley, EndNote, and RefWorks all kind of have some free versions, but aren't as robust. And Zotero, I think, is by far the best one that I've been able to find. And it syncs to Google Drive, and it syncs to Microsoft Word, to Google Docs and to Microsoft Word. So you can create a bibliography and, cite a work, so it'll search your database. You can cite it in your, write in the context, and it'll add whatever style you want, Chicago, Vancouver, or whatever standards you want. And then it'll create a works cited list and a bibliography based on the works that you've cited. So we've published out a bibliography with more than 2,000 sources, and that would not have been possible without Zotero. And really, it's like a export, cut and paste, and it's directly, like, it's in exact format, whatever style you want, directly into Word. It's really awesome. And it's also available in the cloud as a searchable, taggable, filterable resource. And there are plugins. So, for example, you go to the library, or you go to Amazon. I didn't say that, right? You go to the library and you find a resource that you want to cite. And there's all that correct metadata that you want, or you're at your YouTube and there's all the metadata around that video, or you're listening to a podcast, or you're looking at a journal. There's all these different formats and standards around metadata that you need to cite. And the plugin for Zotero in your browser will automatically download all that correct metadata and put it in all the fields that are needed. And it's all editable in terms of the standards. So if you are into research and you're not using a bibliography assist like Zotero, change how you work and look at it. It's free and it's awesome. On research, if you are, there's so much, you're trying to summarize your work and what you're doing and its impacts, and you have usually like lots of words, and you're trying to, like, word clouds are really popular as a way to summarize out your, what you're doing. And so wordclouds.com is a free little awesome toolkit to, just based on your browser, to create word clouds, which is really awesome. I know many people that are, have a Mac or have a Windows and want the other operating system and haven't quite figured out how to do that. Yes, you can, like on Mac with boot assist, you can create a partitioned hard drive and have the separate operating system on that partitioned hard drive. But if you don't want to do that, you want to keep it all, you want it software oriented with only one partition on your hard drive, then Parallels, a desktop for Mac, will create a virtual environment that allows you to install Windows on your Mac machine, and for Windows to install Mac on your Windows machine in a virtual environment, there's a VirtualBox. And they're actually pretty intuitive to use. They're not that difficult. You'll need to do some reading and watch the video training, but they're not that difficult. It is possible. VirtualBox is open source, works both on Mac and on Windows. Parallels gives you much more support, but you have to buy it. There's really not a free version for that. There's so many more tools that I want to talk about. Yeah, like Asana and Toggle. So everyone that Taslim, sorry, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I know every single one that you've mentioned. So Smartsheet and Asana and FreeCamp and Toggle and Monday and MeisterTech and so on. Yes, they are all awesome, but the reason they are not here is their free plans aren't that great. Like Toggle, the free plan, in my consideration, isn't that great. It's an alternative to AnyDo or Trello, but the free plan's just not there. Asana is also, I chose Trello for this group I chose Trello over Asana because Trello is easier to use. Asana, if you need like more like team management around a task, then Asana and the free before I went to Office 365 environment and Planner, I used Asana over Trello because I preferred the complexity. And the free plan for Asana is actually quite good. But I find it's a steep learning curve to use it properly. Monday is not that bad for its free account, and it's actually pretty easy to use, but I find it's quite limiting in terms of what it will offer. And if you want more robust features, then I think it's not necessarily the best bet. But yeah, they're all good alternatives. Yeah. I think yes, absolutely. That is the biggest issue that we've heard in our feedback. We did a bunch of design thinking workshops about, your digital challenges and digital needs to help inform our own software design for Hatch Open and Arts United. If you remember, I mentioned that earlier. And really what we heard from the sector is there's an overwhelming frustration and tiredness in not knowing what tools to choose, and what the implications are when you do choose them. What are you giving up and what are you gaining in making that choice? Because really the only way to learn is by using them. And there are lots of blogs when you try to go and compare various features of different tools. And actually, if we don't have any other questions, I have a really, just so we'll go right till 4 o'clock because I love sharing. How many of you have wanted to post Instagram, not from your phone, but from your laptop or your computer? Victoria, have you wanted to do that?
I did, and I figured out a way with the help of
Google.
Because I just can't do it on the phone. I prefer to post. It's not a photo, it's a poster, so I just can't do it on the phone.
So there's actually a very easy way to do it. So let me show you how to do that. And this is the kind of thing I want to do more of in the future, okay, here's your 5-minute tip of the day kind of thing. I've just not had the time to do it. But for the last tip of the day, let's give you that. So am I still sharing? I'm not sharing my screen. So let me share my screen. So I'm going to show you how to do it on Chrome. I think you can do it on Firefox. Firefox used to be my browser to go, but then there was a time where they were so far behind on the 8-ball on security about 2 years ago that Firefox wasn't working at all. So I moved to Chrome and I've never gone back to Firefox, and I was with Firefox since like the day it launched. So I'm in Chrome now. So I'm actually not sure if we can, I'm pretty sure we can do this, but I've not tested in Firefox. So Chrome it is. So what you're going to do, can everyone see an empty Chrome browser? Victoria, I'm sharing that screen. Okay, so you're going to go to your 3 dots and you're going to go to More Tools and you're going to go to Developer Tools. And there's a blog article about how to do this on the ArtsPond website. So if you just search ArtsPond's website for Instagram, there's a blog article on how to do this, if you forget. Okay, so what this developer tool is it's an emulator for different devices. So if you want to see what your website looks like for an iPhone or a Galaxy or Android, Samsung, you can choose, so right now it's just basically defaulted as basic responsive, but you could choose a Galaxy S5 or a Pixel 2 or an iPhone 6, 7, or 8. So let's do an iPhone 6 or 7, 8. So this is what this website looks like currently. So let's go to Instagram. ArtsPond 8 is ArtsPond's Instagram account. And you're going to get a bunch of gobbledygook way over here. Just ignore it. Don't need to worry about it. It's for the web designers, for looking at the code. Don't need to worry about that part. What you need to make sure is that you have selected right here in the toggle device bar that you're not looking at the website itself, you're looking at the emulator. So there's that little device here. It just means that that's your cell phone and your tablet. So just click on that and you'll then be able to choose up here which one you want. So iPhone 7. And then if you, the first time you do it, the plus sign to add your picture may not exist. So just refresh the browser and the plus button will be there. And then away you go. And so what Instagram, you can now go search your local computer, add your image, add your dialogue on it and your hashtags and post. So I'm not going to go through all of that, but just as an example, so open and you can see the image and you can move it around and then you go next and you can add the text through it. So what this is what's happening here is we're tricking Instagram to think that you are using a mobile device, not a desktop. So you can actually log in to your account and have the full functionality as if you were a mobile device. So you can edit your content and so on. The difference between Firefox, Chrome, and Microsoft Edge, they're all just different browsers and they're developed by different people. Microsoft Edge, obviously by Microsoft, Chrome by Google, and Firefox is an independent foundation, not for profit. And they're all basically the same, but how they interpret in terms of what they're trying to do, but how they interpret the code in the various websites is slightly different. Some features are available in Chrome, for example, that are not available in Microsoft. And Microsoft Edge is the most recently developed browser, so it has features that a browser in Chrome won't display, or it displays differently. So really it doesn't matter which one you use, but now if you are using the most current code, you're going to want to have a Microsoft Edge, unfortunately. I hate it. I don't like it at all. But if you're wanting the most current kind of features, if you're a coder and a developer, you're going to want users to use Microsoft Edge, but because it is the most current available technology. But Chrome and Firefox are catching up. They're just a little bit slower. Chrome, I think, is the best middle-of-the-road browser. If you don't want to support Google, then I want to support Firefox. There was a big period, about 6 months, where they were behind the 8-ball on developing things. They were always ahead of things at the time, but they're caught up now. I've just not moved back because I'm with Chrome now. But Yes, Chinese accessibility, character display is much better in Chrome than it is in Firefox, that's for sure. Because of the international support and international development that Google can realize. Okay, great. So that was the tip of the day. We've gone 2 minutes over. Thanks so much for your time, everyone. Nice to share with you. And you can email me at jessa@artspond.com for any questions. I know I didn't put the links that I said I would. So if you want those links, feel free to email me at jessa@artspond, and I will try to respond to your questions. Thanks so much, and hope to see you all next week. Same time, same place.